Welcome back, everyone, to Discipline Habits. I'm your host, Jess Gordon, and today I have a super exciting guest who is my dad. Here he is.
Hey. Never wanna stop loving you.
He wanted to come on and talk to everybody about financial discipline habits that you can make at a young age, because I know for me, I am just about to go into the real world, and I want to make sure that I'm set up for success after I actually get out there and do my thing. So, Dad, give your little elevator pitch to the listeners, who you are, everything. Obviously, you're my dad, but you're also other things too.
Yeah, hi. I'm Joe Gordon, a.k.a. Dad for Jessica. Financial advisor, J. Gordon Financial. My wife, Stephanie, which is Jessica's mother, and I have a financial services firm. We help individuals, businesses set up retirement plans for employees, individuals for saving for retirement, for a house, for whatever it is, and just basically help people increase their net worth. So that's, in a nutshell, what we do.
Yes. So, Dad, as a young person, whether that's me or somebody else listening to this, let's start off with the discipline habits that you want to talk about that they can do now in college or just straight out of college.
Sure. One of the things that, when I was thinking about this and what I wanted to talk about was, what did I do, and what have I learned that people could do, like looking back, 30 years ago when I was in your situation and maybe many of your listeners, is that, what can I do now to help improve my future? Today, just, unfortunately, there aren't pensions anymore. You have to save for yourself, and that can be good and bad. The good news is that the money that you accumulate, you can pass along, you can spend however you wish. The bad is it takes a lot of discipline to get there. So one of the things I like to take a look at is that when you're coming out of college, what are some of the things that you can do? And one is, for most people, at least your listeners primarily, I would believe, is that, start a Roth IRA. It's a basic format where you put money in that you've already paid income taxes on. And since today is April 8th, I think the magic day is next Monday, where you have to report all your earnings for 2023 and pay those taxes accordingly. So a Roth IRA, when you're a student and you're making some money or you're just coming out of school, you pay a lower tax bracket than you would when you get your, quote, real job or real business or real career. And, then that money grows tax-free, until you retire. So it grows tax-free. And, there's just something about tax-free that feels good to me. It sounds good. It didn't come about till the late 90s. It was a piece of legislation. Roth, one of the sponsors of the bill, it was late 90s. So that wasn't available when I was your age, but now it is. So you imagine, you save $1 million, and let's say you take $50,000 from it every year, and you pay no income tax on it. That feels good versus you have $1 million pre-tax, and you're paying taxes on that $50,000, so you have less purchasing power. So I think it's really powerful. That's one thing that someone starting out should do. Heck, you could even go all the way back when they were younger kids. Our girls were very astute with financials, and I think you've met Jessica's sister on another podcast where they approached me and said, "Dad, we want to meet with our financial advisor." And, they said, "We want to meet with him now." It was
that
funny.
was him.
Yeah, it was funny. It was also like, wow, these kids are serious. And that's a good attitude to think that we have to take care of our future selves. So that was one. I do have some notes here. Someone coming out of school, you get your first career, you're excited. Jessica has lots of opportunities here, and I'm sure many of the listeners do too. You kind of like, what do I pick? Well, you want to pick an employer if you work for someone that has a retirement plan that they match. Most employers will match at least 3%. Meaning that if you make $1, they'll put in 3 cents, and you put in at least 3 cents. Okay, so you're at 6%. I recommend 10 to 15, simply because it helps you accumulate wealth for a long time, let's say until you're 65. something along those lines. And that's a good starting point. But if you can't do more than 6%, let's say you can only do 7, meaning including employer's match, and then every year you get a pay increase, you take 1% of that pay increase. Doesn't change your lifestyle now, but it helps your lifestyle in the future. So that's a good thing to start out. Healthcare, you got to have it. I know we're young, we're invincible, but, just healthcare is very important. Consider that as part of your plan too, because, one illness, an accident, anything like that could be detrimental to your financial picture. And I think, as a young person, you need to find an employer that supports that with a health plan of some kind. It's not inexpensive, but it's something you might definitely want to have.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when you get established, have a little emergency fund. Cars break, house repairs. There's all kinds of little things that break. And, if you have like $1,000 to $2,000 set aside, savings account, whatever, it's liquid, and you have an issue, you can get it fixed. You don't want to borrow money for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The other is even bigger than that. And you want to have about 3 to 6 months expenses saved in cash or investments. What does that mean? It's like, okay, well, let's say your rent, $1,000, $2,000 a month. You have a car payment. Let's say your expenses are $3,000 a month. Well, 3 to 6 months would be $9,000 to $18,000 saved. And why the variance, maybe someone would ask, is because if you have a secure job, maybe you only need 3% or 3 months. Excuse me. Or if you have a job that's really risky, like you have your own business. I'm self-employed. My practice, I've been very fortunate to have such a practice, but it takes a lot of discipline to, pay yourself and all those kinds of things. So if you have an employer, it makes it a little bit easier, but that's where you're going to have on a 3% side or 3 months versus 6 where you have your own business. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then another thing I just want to talk about for two more things, younger folks, is that, you're 22 years old. Like, you don't want to be conservative. You can be, but you should be focused on growth and, mostly equities. And again, I'm not trying to give individual advice here. This is general just because of length of time. Okay. Another fun with numbers. I know I always like to talk about it. And, my degree is in finance from Penn State.
Oh, yeah, Dad, I'm wearing a Bucknell sweatshirt, actually.
Well, that's my that's my other alma mater. I got my MBA from Bucknell.
Yeah, this used to be his sweatshirt for my listeners, but I stole it.
Yeah. You leave something hanging in the closet and it disappears. Now I know where it is. But anyway, Bucknell's a great school, and Penn State's a great school. But, a degree and minor in finance and a minor in economics taught me a lot. So one of the things I remember, it's just a nerdy story, and I'll be really quick, is so I'm 17 years old. I'm at my parents' house. My parents' financial advisor is there. Obviously, he's in between appointments. Meeting with a 17-year-old, I have no assets at all. And I ask him, I say, how much money I have to save per month, and to be a millionaire by the time I'm 60 or 65. I can't remember what number I said, but to do that starting then. And he said, about $333 a month. And I remember thinking, who has $333 a month? You have to remember, I'm in high school. I don't have an income. I make a little bit of money doing some side hustle stuff, but no. I go, who has that? Well, now that's not even close to a car payment or what have you. So it doesn't take a lot. You just have to start early. Time is your friend, that kind of thing. And then the other one is volatility. I'm sure many of your listeners have been in airplanes, and the pilot wants to find you that smooth air, right? You'll make it to your destination. Those planes can go through a lot, right? Hurricane winds, but you may not feel so good when you get there. But if the pilot finds that smooth air, that's great. So one of the comparisons I always love to share with people is I'm going to give you 2 sets of returns, and they would say, which one do you like better? And I'll ask Jessica too. Okay, it's a little bit of a quiz.
Oh,
see,
quiz.
She's been listening all these years. So if you have a return of 10% a year for 3 years in a row, that's a pretty good return. That averages what per year? 10%. So if you have 10, 10, 10, add them up, divided by 3 years is 10% a year. Sounds good.
Yeah.
The second return is 20% the first year, minus 10 the second, and plus 20 the third. So that should be 10 minus 10 is 10, plus 20 is 30. Divided by 3 is
10.
10% per year. Wow, my kid, I taught her well.
That's basic math.
Anyway, but the thing is, those returns look the same. But when you put them to dollars, how do they look? Which one would you rather have? The one that's stable or the one that jumps around?
Jumps around.
Okay. So the one that's stable, if you get 10% on $100,000 the first year, you earn 10% in interest. So it's $110,000. Not bad.
Uh-huh.
Second year, you get 20%. Now you're at $121,000 because you have $100,000 that earn 10. Now you combine them. Now they earn 10%, so that's another $11,000. You're at $121,000. Not bad. Okay. And then the third year, you get another 10%, which means you get another $12,100, and now you're $133,100 after 3 years. So 10% each year, $133,000. Again, we can use any number here. Use $1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's $133,100. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the second one, remember, it's the same return. Okay, but the first year you get 20%. You're at $120,000. That's better than the first one, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone would be excited by it. That's great. Well, the next year something happened, whatever that investment you had, it had that really good year, but then the next year it actually went down 10%. I typed this in wrong.
Well, it's
$108,000.
Uh-huh.
Like, okay, that'd feel good because the steady as she goes model, you're at $121,000. So you went up 20, it looked great, and then it went down. Okay. And then the third year, you get 20% to make up for that. You know, remember, you're up 20, down 10. That means you're up 10. You're up 20 now, you're up 30.
Yeah.
But when you take $108,000 and you take that times 20%, 108 times 1.2, 129.6. I got that number right. I don't know why I didn't have the 108,000 correct. Now you're 129.6. Now.
So I picked the wrong choice.
You picked the wrong choice.
Wait.
Oh, I got some work to do.
That's not
All
good.
right. That's all right.
I should have looked at the cheat sheet.
The point of the story is volatility can hurt. So even though you have many years to go, you don't want to be shooting for the moon and being really all over the place. You got to have a nice, steady growth, but it needs to have growth. So that's the point. Is that you don't want to be the pilot that's like jumping around, that kind of thing. You want to have a steady state. So
slope.
Anyway, hopefully that helps a little bit, and I'll be done on that.
Well, I think that's helpful, but I kind of wanted. So that was all good. Those are good discipline habits to start off with. Whenever you are, whether you're in college or just right out of college. So around the age that I'm in, which I know a lot of my listeners are around there. But the next thing I kind of wanted to segue into is, Dad, so you started a business here in State College. Do you want to talk about a little bit how that kind of went? Challenges, not challenges, because I know there's a lot of people that are on here that want to be an entrepreneur, including myself and other people. So give either advice or kind of your journey on how you started a business here in State College.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I wasn't ready for it, but I'm so glad you asked it. But no, because I'm going to speak off the cuff, no notes, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Is that, looking back on my own personal career, I started off with school. I got a really good job. I went and got my MBA. Started a family, all those kind of things, worked my way up through the corporate ladder. And, I was fortunate. I mean, a Penn State degree and a Bucknell degree go a long ways. I was meeting people, and I was well on my way to be a CFO of a company, and that's significant. But the cost of that path was less time. I know a lot of corporate people, and they work really hard, and they're able to balance time really well. But it was difficult for me to envision myself being gone a lot and not seeing my family grow up. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of professional people. It's really good. That's the route you want to go. But having your own business is fantastic. It's the best thing I've ever done. I should have done it sooner. But no, because I needed that corporate experience to meet people, to complement my education that I had. And you start meeting people, and you start your own business. I happened to start my financial advisory services. Jessica's mom, she stayed at home. We wanted to raise the kids, and we compromised on that income because we wanted to teach them our values, and I think that was a great thing. For me to go out on my own was tough. I had a really good career, in corporate finance. I ended up coming to Penn State, working for Penn State's Applied Research Lab, basically the finance person there. And, it was a steady role, but there wasn't a lot of future for me. And I was a go-getter, just like Jessica and her sister are. They're aggressive people. They're going to be very successful. I have no doubt about it. There'll be bumps along the way, but any of your listeners out there that listen to you, they know that already. But also those that are listening is that they have ambition too. They want to know what it takes to be successful. And being your own business is huge. That's where the money is. You control everything. It's huge. But for me to get there, I work for somebody. I learned how to interact with executives. I learned how to interact with people, and I grew my network of people that I know. As a financial advisor, that's huge.
Yeah.
Maybe some of your listeners, they want to start their own podcast, whatever. They got to get clicks. They got to get likes. They got to get this core of people appreciating what you have to offer through this medium, so social media. And I'd say go for it, but have a plan to get there. It's difficult. Here we're at a steady income. My wife's stay-at-home mom with two young kids. Yeah, that's a great risk, but without great risk, there's no great reward.
Yeah.
So there is a risk-reward relationship, and I think that's important. So that's a great question for your listeners, is that if you want to be successful, you want to own a business. Now, one of the things that we did is that eventually her mother went to work and with a really good employer, excellent company, and she had benefits. Me is all about the income because I didn't have any benefits, and I don't have any health care and all that stuff. I had to pay for everything myself. So when you have a spouse partnership there, that helps take that risk.
Yeah.
But I'd say, work a little bit, earn some money, experience, make the most of every opportunity. But boy, if you have a business idea that's going to be successful, go for it. I mean, especially when you're young, what's going to happen? I mean, it's not like you're losing the house and all that stuff. You're a young person. You take that risk. But for it to be successful, you could fail a lot of times. I can't remember the one example I wanted to bring up. I wish I'd have researched his name. There's a QVC founder. I can't remember his name. It's online television shopping. Okay.
Yeah.
Before internet shopping, it was a cool thing to do. You're on the phone, you're talking to people. Well, I think he had 13 businesses fail, like bankrupt Zippo, before this one succeeded. So there's a determination part to it. I think from a listener's standpoint, you need to have a little bit of competency. You got to know what you're doing. An interest is huge. You got to have an interest in being successful in what you're doing. And the other thing is you really just have to stick with it, even when you think you're going to fail.
Talk a lot about grit, I feel, in general, in anything. You have to have grit, whether that's financially, if you're starting a business or whatever. There's a lot of things in life that you have to have grit for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I mean, absolutely right. You've been consistent in that message. I've watched all your podcasts, and you have discipline and have a faith. I think that's really important. I think it's more than just, from a religious standpoint, it's more of a discipline too. Is that you're saying that, I believe in something, I have faith in something, it's God and all those things, but there's an energy where you attract stuff too. There's a book or a podcast, I can't remember what it was. It's called The Law of Attraction, where you write down, I'm going to be a millionaire, or I'm gonna run a I don't know 4-4-40, whatever. If you're a sports athlete in football or something like that, where you write down that goal, and then you develop a plan to reach that goal. Yeah. But without that goal there, you don't know where you're going. Like, you have an uncharted trip. You're on a boat. You don't know where it's sailing to. I do this at any aspect of my life. When I was with my corporate role, a Fortune 100 company, responsible for the entire corporate plan, to pull it together, all that kind of stuff, and present it to the CEO and CFO of the company. And that was a big deal. And it was a great experience for me. But more importantly, corporations need to know where they're going the next year. They determine allocation resources. Are they expanding? Are they decreasing headcount? Things like that. It's a big deal. So even in your own life, if you have a business, you need to have a little bit of a plan. But again, just have a goal. Have a goal of what I want to accomplish. and reach it and just have fun too. It has to be a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so the last thing that I want to say, because we've been chatting for a while, but that's okay. What a line of advice to any of my listeners, Dad?
One line of advice?
Or just a phrase of advice that you would give to my listeners about either starting a business or, you kind of went into depth there for a minute, but more in just one little phrase that you could say for starting a business or just anything with the financial discipline habits.
Okay, one thing I tell my girls, and I'll share with all your listeners too, is be confident, be grateful, and be humble.
There you go, folks. Those 3. Be confident, be grateful, be humble. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's everything for the episode for today. Thanks, Dad, for coming on. My mom actually, her.
Don't forget to wear your glasses today.
He's ready for the eclipse. It's 2:04. It should have started. Yeah, the peaks though in an hour or something. But anyways, thanks so much for coming on, Dad. It was my mom's idea to have him on, but he's here. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you guys in the next podcast episode. See you guys.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.